Hey, what's up guys, TechTime here, and I'm back again with a brand new video. Before I begin this one, as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, leave a thumbs up. Also make sure you subscribe to the channel. So this has been a requested video from you guys, but this is basically my camera review of the Samsung Galaxy S24 FE, and this camera system could really change the game to the better. So it's definitely a noticeable upgrade from the previous generation in some situations, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So really quickly, I want to cover up on the design of this camera module. It's a very familiar Samsung design of a camera module, from their entry-level A15 all the way up to the S24 Plus. This is the same setup that you'll get across all their cameras. Now, as far as the specs themselves, this camera system does have a 50 megapixel main camera, f1.8 aperture, an 8 megapixel telephoto 3x optical zoom. Both of the main and the telephoto have optical image stabilization, and a 12 megapixel f2.2 123 degree field of view. Now this camera system does also protrude quite a bit, so it's going to rock back and forth on a table, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to have a case on it, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. In addition to that, the interface is also familiar, very quick, easy to use, responsive. Changing between your main sensor to your wide angle to your 3x optical zoom is really quick, really fluid, and really easy. On top of that, this phone also has support for 30 times digital zoom, which can get crazy. We'll take a look at some samples here in a little bit. As far as your video capability, this phone is capable of recording up to 8K video at 30 frames per second. iPhones don't have that feature. Now it might sound like a little bit of an overkill, which it is. I don't think a lot of people are going to be using that 8K, but you can also switch to 4K at 30, 60, or even 120 frames per second, and even go as far as 1080p up to 204, and even go as far as 1080p at 240 frames per second, or even 720p at 960 frames per second. Stupid super slow motion video. So from the specs alone, this camera, as far as photo and video, it seems to be very capable. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the image quality itself. So here's my thought process when it came to image quality. It's just what I would expect from Samsung. This camera starts off with giving you these vibrant, kind of slightly saturated pictures that please the eye, but it can get kind of obtrusive in times. However, it does take some really solid pictures in good daylight conditions. The exposure may not always be perfect, but it works well. In a really good lighting condition, you can get some solid pictures out of this phone. And even when it comes to your kind of shadows and highlights and contrast, it's pretty decent. The dynamic range on here is also very well respected. It does a pretty good job in kind of balancing the whole picture out. At least it definitely tries its best. So a quick word on the telephoto lens. In a 3 times telephoto lens, it's pretty good. However, the picture does lose a little bit of detail. But when it comes to 30 times telephoto, yeah, I mean, it's potato quality, but it's fun to use from time to time. Okay, so I want to switch the conversation and also talk about the wide angle camera. The wide angle on here is also pretty good. It does a pretty respectable job in giving us some good wide angle shots. Because of a slightly higher resolution, the 12 megapixel ultra wide, you get slightly better detail, but it's not as good as the main camera basically. Also, indoor photography with artificial light does lose out a little bit on this kind of saturation and detail, but again, still does a respectable job. When it comes to lower light conditions like sunset pictures, this phone does a fantastic job. Sunset photos on here look really good. But when you switch to even dimmer conditions, that's when this phone kind of struggles with noise and stuff like that. It does have a good night mode that tries its best to overprocess the picture to give you as if there is a actual lighting in that photo without it being lit. So yeah, keep that in mind. Switching the topic of conversation, let's talk about the video quality. So this phone shoots pretty decent video, actually pretty good video for the money that you're paying for it. However, at times I feel like the video quality is not as it doesn't pop as much as its image quality, but you can switch between your wide angle and your main sensor and even your 3 times telephoto lens if you're shooting at 1080p. You can't really do that in 4K, and again, still does it shoots some pretty respectable pictures. Now, just for the fun of it, I decided to do this also experiment where I decided to get the iPhone 16 Plus in this conversation, just to see where this phone stacks up. the results were actually kind of shocking. So here they are side by side. I'm not gonna pick and choose. I want you guys to pick and choose. But for me personally, I feel like the camera comparison has been getting more difficult and more difficult and more difficult. Samsung's Galaxy S24 FE in some scenarios can keep up. In others, for example, this Sunset, I think it beats the iPhone 16 Plus in my opinion. But in video quality, it definitely loses out. It may have the higher 8K resolution, but in my opinion, from what I've seen when I uploaded the videos on my computer, it looked really, really good and way better than the Galaxy S24 FE. But I would love to hear your guys' opinions about this comparison. We might have a fun conversation down in the comments below. Okay, so with that being said, here's the point that I want to get across. This is definitely a solid camera for the money that you're paying for this phone. Remember, this is the MSRP at $650, and I'm most definitely sure that it's going to come down in price in the upcoming holiday season. So, from what you guys have seen, would this camera have a place in your pocket? Is this something that would be like, damn, this is better than the previous generation, or this would be a much smarter upgrade than getting a flagship device or a device that costs $1,000? And so with that being said, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, and if you agree with me, disagree with me, let me know. I really think this is definitely a step in the right direction from Samsung. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next one. I appreciate you all for watching.